Well, the Peaceful Music playlist is a kind of a voyage through music of really a lot of different styles. It's quite broad. I guess it shares this idea that music also, as well as being something we just enjoy listening to, it also can have a kind of almost like a utility. We have music for dancing, we have music for running, we have music for all sorts of different things. And this idea of music as a place to find rest is also, I think, something that music can really do. The idea of music having a use, goes back centuries. The beginnings of written down music was the liturgy. Obviously, that has a kind of connection with the idea of a kind of a meditative state and all of that. So I think music can really be useful in that way. The Allegri is obviously an example of something from a sort of a Christian standpoint, a theological standpoint. Music as an object for meditation, a space for reflection. And I think that's one of the things that music can do. Music can transport us. It's also kind of a time machine. We can speed up time, or in this case, slow down time. And it's also something which can act as a kind of like a landscape. Music that we love transports us. It sort of works almost like a place. You listen to something, people say, oh, that track really takes me somewhere, and it does. There's something about the way our brains interact with sound and music that just actually, it's almost like the piece is a place in itself. I wanted to do peaceful music because of my interest in music as a sort of disruptor, in a way. I like this idea of there being sort of more than one way to write protest music. And my Sleep project, in a way, actually is sort of part of this conversation. It's a project a couple of years ago, 8.5-hour long piece to be rested through or slept through. And I see, this playlist as sort of part of that, really. And that's really an inquiry into, why are we always on, actually? And is that the best use of our time? And, all of those sort of social, political questions around our very sort of digital lives. So sleep I thought of as an act of resistance, and this is maybe also an act of resistance. I mean, my criteria were really things that I love. I mean, in a way, I think that's the best criteria for anything. So the playlist ranges widely. It goes from Renaissance music, instrumental music, contemporary music, piano music, electronic music. But I guess all these things share a kind of a fingerprint, which is to do with something which doesn't kind of flood your consciousness with information. It's not busy. It leaves enough space for you to kind of think your own thoughts as it's going on. There's quite a bit of Bach in the playlist because Bach is one of the real fundamentals of the musical universe. Bach is a little bit like Mount Everest in geography. You can have an opinion about it, but thank you for your opinion, Mount Everest is still there. And Bach is like that, so there's lots of Bach in the playlist. But yeah, there's also more contemporary things. I think a lot of contemporary music, it's a little bit like sort of attention-seeking toddler. It's constantly like sort of pressing our button to try and sort of, get our attention. A lot of contemporary music, for example, you don't really have intros anymore, it just starts because our attention span is so shortened. We click away 1 second later if the vocal isn't there. Streaming has completely changed everything, I think, in terms of music production, listening. Completely. I mean, I think it actually goes back to, Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. I think there is something about the medium itself which has sort of shifted our perception of what culture is and musical languages. There's something about, I think, the screen which changes things in all sorts of ways. Of course, there's also a huge amount of music now easily accessible for people, which in itself is, a dramatic change. You know, when I was a young kid, if you wanted a record and the record shop didn't have it, then that's it, game over. This kind of music is something a bit more like a landscape, something that you can have a kind of an extended relationship with, to kind of find a place to rest.